I was halfway to my car when I heard my daughter-in-law shriek through the restaurant window, waving the leather check folder like a battle flag. 28 years of marriage, 15 years of widowhood, and 6 years of watching my son transform from my sweet boy into a stranger who called his wife boss. But nothing prepared me for what they'd discover when they broke into my house at 4 a.m, ready to demand their money back. 3 months before the birthday dinner disaster, I was organizing my late husband Frank's study when I found the envelope that would change everything. It was tucked behind a row of his favorite mystery novels sealed with wax, like he was sending a message from the past. My hands trembled as I opened it, recognizing his careful handwriting immediately. My dearest Carla. The letter began, "If you're reading this, then I've been gone for 15 years, just as we planned. The account information is enclosed. Use it wisely, my love. And remember what we always said. Sometimes, the greatest gift you can give someone is letting them learn their own lessons." The investment account statement nearly made me drop my coffee. $2.8 million. Frank, my beautiful, brilliant Frank, had invested his life insurance payout in a fund that matured after 15 years. All those times I'd eaten beans and rice driven my 20-year-old Honda shopped at thrift stores, thinking we'd left just enough to get by. He'd been protecting me, protecting this moment, even from beyond. I set the papers down and walked to the window, looking out at the driveway where Jason used to practice basketball. My sweet boy, who once brought me dandelions and called them sunshine flowers. Now 35, a software engineer who hadn't called his mother in 3 months unless he needed something. The last time I'd heard from him was a text. "Madison says hi, BTW, can you cover our car payment this month? Work's been slow." Work hadn't been slow. I'd seen his LinkedIn updates about the promotion, the company expansion, the bonuses. But somehow there was never enough money when Madison was involved. Madison. Just thinking her name made my chest tight. 32 years old, a fashion blogger who called herself an influencer and entrepreneur. She influenced my son right out of his family's life, that's what she did. The girl who showed up to my husband's funeral wearing a white mini dress because black is so depressing, then spent the reception taking selfies with the flower arrangements. The doorbell rang, interrupting my thoughts. Dorothy stood on my porch holding a casserole dish and wearing that look that meant she had something to say. "Saw Jason's car at the mall yesterday," she said, settling into my kitchen like she'd done for 30 years. "That wife of his was loading shopping bags from Nordstrom and Saks. Didn't they just ask you for mortgage help?" I poured her coffee in the good china, a habit from better days. 2 months behind, apparently. I sent them $3,000 last week. Dorothy's eyebrows climbed toward her silver hairline. "Carla Thompson, when are you going to stop letting them treat you like a walking ATM? He's my son, Dot. He's a grown man with a wife who posts pictures of your Christmas gifts on Instagram with crying, laughing emojis. Did you see what she wrote about that sweater you knitted her?" I had seen it. "When your ML thinks she's Martha Stewart but shops at Walmart with a photo of my handmade cable knit sweater next to a designer one costing $2,000. The comments from her followers were worse. Time to put Granny in a home was one of the kinder ones. That girl is poison." Dorothy continued stabbing her coffee spoon for emphasis. "And she's turned Jason into someone I don't recognize. Remember when he used to help Frank with the yard work? Now he won't even come for Sunday dinner unless she's got a nail appointment." I thought about the last Sunday dinner attempt. Madison had spent the entire time on her phone, live streaming my pot roast while making faces behind my back. Jason just sat there laughing along when she called my dining room vintage shabby without the chic. "You know what really bothers me?" I said, surprising myself with the admission. "It's not the money. Frank and I always said we'd help our kids. It's the contempt. Like I'm not a person anymore, just a problem to manage or a resource to tap." Dorothy reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "Honey, you've got more grace than the Lord gave anyone." But even he threw the money changers out of the temple. After she left, I sat with Frank's letter again. There was a second page I'd barely glanced at, too stunned by the dollar amount to read further. Now I absorbed every word. "I know you'll want to share this windfall immediately, That's who you are, my generous girl. But I'm asking you to wait, watch, listen. Make sure that when you give, it's received with gratitude, not entitlement. Our boy is good at heart, but he's weak where pretty faces are concerned. Don't let anyone, not even him, especially not him, diminish your worth. You're not just a wallet or a safety net. You're the woman I loved for 30 years, the mother who raised our children with wisdom and strength. Don't forget that. And if someone else forgets, remind them. You have my permission to raise a little hell. I laughed through my tears. Frank never said hell in all our years together except when the Packers lost the Super Bowl. That evening, I did something I hadn't done in years. I went through our family photos on Facebook. There was Jason at 10 grinning with his first-place science fair trophy. At 15, teaching his sister Emma to drive in the church parking lot. At 21, college graduation, his arm around my shoulders as he whispered, "Thanks for everything, Mom. I love you." When had it changed? I scrolled forward. Their engagement photos. Madison draped over him like an expensive scarf, his smile somehow smaller. The wedding where she'd insisted I wear beige because colors wash you out at your age. The housewarming where she'd relegated all our family photos to the basement because they cluttered the aesthetic. My phone buzzed. A notification from Madison's Instagram story. Against my better judgment, I clicked. She was at a spa, cucumber slices over her eyes, talking to her phone. "So blessed to have a massage day. Self-care is not selfish, ladies. Although some people think we should dress like librarians and save every penny. Not naming names, but my ML could use this treatment. Maybe it would help with all those worry lines from counting her coupons." The comments poured in her followers, eager to share their own mother-in-law horror stories. I was about to close the app when I saw something that made my blood run cold. Madison had created a private group chat visible in a screenshot she'd accidentally included. The group name, Operation Inheritance. The visible message from someone named Brittany, her divorce lawyer friend I remembered from the wedding, "Just get her declared incompetent. Elderly confusion is easy to prove. Once you have power of attorney, the house and accounts are yours. My retainer is $5,000. My hand shook as I screenshot everything before it disappeared from her story. Declared incompetent. I was 65, not 95. I still worked part-time at the library, volunteered at the literacy center, managed my own finances, and could probably run circles around Madison in any test of mental acuity. But now I understood. The forgotten birthday calls, the missed holidays, the constant requests for money, it was all part of a longer game. They weren't just using me. They were planning to erase me entirely. I opened my laptop and began typing an email to my attorney, Samuel Peters. Sam had handled Frank's estate and warned me even then about protecting my assets. "Grief makes people vulnerable," he'd said, "and vultures circle the grieving." As I attached the screenshots, my phone rang. Jason's face appeared on the screen, the photo from happier days mocking me. "Hi, honey." I answered, my voice steady despite the storm in my chest. "Mom, hey, listen, Madison's birthday is coming up. She really wants to do something special, you know, a nice dinner with her friends. Thing is, we're a little tight this month." Oh, I kept typing my email to Sam. "Yeah, so we were wondering if you could cover it as her birthday gift. She's thinking Chez Laurent." Chez Laurent, where a glass of water probably cost $50, and they charged you for looking at the menu. How many people? Maybe like 12, 15. You know, Madison, she's so popular. Popular. Is that what we were calling it now? I'll think about it, sweetheart. Come on, Mom. It's not like you're spending money on anything else. When's the last time you even bought new clothes? There it was. The dismissal, the assumption that my life was small and worthless compared to Madison's need for Instagram-worthy celebrations. I said, "I'll think about it, Jason." "Fine, but don't think too long. She needs to make reservations." He hung up without saying goodbye, without asking how I was, without any pretense of caring beyond my usefulness. I hit send on the email to Sam and sat back. Frank's letter lay beside me, that permission to raise hell seeming more like a directive now. They wanted to play games with a grieving widow. Well, this widow was done grieving and ready to teach some lessons. The last paragraph of Frank's letter caught my eye again. P.S. Check the bottom drawer of my filing cabinet. I had a feeling you might need it someday. Consider it my final gift to my warrior queen. In the drawer beneath tax returns and warranty cards, I found another envelope. This one contained business cards for a private investigator, a forensic accountant, and a security systems specialist. Frank, my darling Frank, playing chess, even from the grave. I picked up the investigator's card first, Margaret Chen Discreet Investigations, the note from Frank on the back. Maggie helped with that embezzlement case at the bank. She's thorough and takes no prisoners. Tell her I sent you. Tomorrow, I decided. Tomorrow, I would begin to unravel exactly who Madison really was and what she wanted with my family. But tonight, I poured myself a glass of Frank's good scotch, the bottle we'd saved for special occasions, and toasted his portrait on the mantel. Game on, my love, I whispered. Game on. 2 weeks before Madison's birthday spectacular, I sat across from Margaret Chen in her downtown office, watching her flip through a file thick enough to use as a doorstop. The investigator's expression reminded me of Dorothy's face when she'd bitten into a lemon bar that had salt instead of sugar. Mrs. Thompson, Maggie said, adjusting her reading glasses, your daughter-in-law is quite the piece of work. That was putting it mildly. I'd hired Maggie the day after discovering Madison's Operation Inheritance plot, and what she'd uncovered made my stomach churn worse than the time I'd eaten gas station sushi. Let's start with the basics, Maggie continued. Madison Elise Richards, not Madison Elise Summers as she claims, never legally changed her name after her first marriage because, and here's the interesting part, that marriage isn't exactly over. I nearly dropped my tea. She's still married. Technically separated but never filed for divorce. Her first husband, Robert Richards, lives in Nevada. He was quite chatty once I explained the situation. Apparently, Madison cleaned out their joint accounts and his grandmother's jewelry collection before disappearing. He didn't pursue it because, and I quote, I was just grateful she was gone. Sweet, merciful heaven. My Jason had married a bigamist, a thieving bigamist who was plotting to have me declared senile. There's more, Maggie said, sliding photos across the desk. These are from her social media accounts under various names. She's run this game before. 2 other elderly women in different states reported similar situations, but neither pressed charges. Too embarrassed, mostly. One in Florida, another in Arizona. Both cases involved their sons, quick marriages, and attempts to access family money. I studied the photos. Madison with different hair colors but the same predatory smile. Always draped on some man's arm, always in expensive clothes, always with that calculating look in her eyes. What about the financial situation? Maggie pulled out bank records. Your son and Madison are approximately $80,000 in debt. Credit cards, personal loans, a boat they bought and sold at a loss. She's been moving money through various accounts, probably preparing to run when the well dries up. The interesting part, she's got a separate account Jason doesn't know about. $23,000 saved, all transferred from their joint account in small amounts. The birthday dinner was in 3 days. Madison had sent me a text with a smiley face. Can't wait to celebrate with you there. Reserve the private dining room at Chez Laurent. I'd responded with my own smiley face, not mentioning I'd already called the restaurant. $8,000 was their estimate for the party Madison had planned. Champagne, special menu, wine pairings, the works. Highway robbery dressed up in French cuisine. Maggie, I said, forming a plan. I need you to be at that restaurant on Saturday night, discreetly. She grinned. Planning something special for the birthday girl. You could say that. Can you have all this documentation ready in a sealed envelope and maybe a copy for my lawyer, Day? Already done. Sam Peters has everything. Smart man, by the way. He's been concerned about your situation for a while. I left Maggie's office feeling like I'd swallowed lightning. Nervous, excited, and slightly nauseous all at once. On the way home, I stopped at my bank. The teller, Janet, had known me for 20 years. I need to make some unusual arrangements, I told her, explaining my plan. Janet's eyes widened, then narrowed with determination. Mrs. Thompson, it would be my absolute pleasure to help. That woman came in here last month trying to get information about your accounts. Said she was your healthcare proxy and needed to check on your finances. I sent her packing, but I've been worried. God bless small-town banking and nosy tellers who'd known you since your kids were in diapers. Saturday arrived like Christmas, and a root canal rolled into one. I dressed carefully in my best outfit, the navy suit I'd bought for Emma's college graduation. Madison always made snide comments about my appearance, but tonight I wanted to look respectable, dignified, like a woman who knew exactly what she was doing. I arrived at Chez Laurent 30 minutes early, wanting to see the setup. The private dining room was magnificent crystal chandeliers, gold-rimmed china, fresh orchids on every surface. Madison had spared no expense with my money. Mrs. Thompson, Pierre the maitre d', greeted me warmly. Your husband was one of our favorite guests. We were so sorry to hear of his passing. Thank you, Pierre. I wonder if I might have a word. I explained the situation briefly, watching his professional smile turn into something sharper. Ah, he said. One of those situations. We've seen a few. How would you like us to handle this? By the time Madison arrived fashionably late in a dress that cost more than most people's rent, I was seated at the head of the table with a glass of water, smiling serenely. Her friends trickled in a parade of influencers and social climbers, all air kisses and artificial sweeteners. Jason hugged me briefly, more obligation than affection. Thanks for doing this, Mom. Madison's been so excited. Of course, sweetheart, anything for family. Madison held court as the champagne flowed and appetizers appeared. Oysters, caviar, things that would photograph well for her Instagram story. She live-streamed constantly, her followers commenting on the luxury, the elegance, the blessed life she was living. This is just the beginning, she announced to her phone. When you manifest abundance, abundance manifests for you. I watched Jason, hoping to see some flicker of embarrassment at his wife's display, but he just smiled dopily, already 3 champagnes in. My boy, who used to be mortified if I raised my voice in the grocery store, completely immune to his wife's grotesque behavior. The main courses arrived. Lobster thermidor, wagyu, beef dishes I couldn't pronounce, and portions that wouldn't fill a toddler. Madison critiqued everything loudly, sending one plate back because the garnish wasn't symmetric enough for photos. Carla, she said, suddenly fixing me with her practiced smile, you must try the lobster. I know you usually stick to early bird specials, but tonight you can live a little. Her friends tittered. I smiled back, cutting my steak with precise movements. How thoughtful of you to think of my dining habits, Madison. Well, someone has to. Jason says you've been eating alone since his dad died. So sad. Have you thought about maybe moving somewhere more appropriate? They have lovely senior communities now, structured activities, medical supervision people to make sure you're taking your pills. There it was, the opening salvo in Operation Inheritance. Plant the seeds of incompetence publicly, get witnesses to her concern for my well-being. I'm quite happy in my home, I replied, though I appreciate your concern for my pills. The only one I take is a multivitamin, but it's sweet of you to worry. She blinked, recalibrating. Of course you are. For now. But Jason and I worry living in that big house all alone. What if you fall? What if you forget to turn off the stove? These things happen at your age. Mom's not that old, Jason said, then ruined it by adding, but Madison has a point. Maybe we should look into options. Options. My son discussing my future like I was a problem to be solved, a piece of furniture to be stored. The sommelier appeared with another bottle this time, a Chateau d'Yquem that I knew cost $800. Madison hadn't bothered asking, just pointed at the wine list with her manicured nail. A toast, she declared, raising her glass once everyone was served. To family, to prosperity, and to knowing when it's time to pass the torch to the next generation. Everyone drank. I touched the glass to my lips, tasting nothing but betrayal. The dinner continued, each course more elaborate than the last. Madison regaled her audience with stories of her business ventures, each one requiring just a little more investment to really take off. She mentioned their need for a new house, something more befitting their status. Her eyes kept sliding to me, calculating, measuring. You know, said one of her friends, a bottle blonde named Tiffany, my grandmother just sold her house and moved in with us. Best decision ever. She gave us the money from the sale as an early inheritance. So much easier than waiting for, you know, death, I supplied helpfully. Yes, I imagine it would be easier to inherit from the living, less paperwork. An awkward silence fell. Madison's laugh tinkled like breaking glass. Carla has such a dark sense of humor, that's why we worry about her state of mind sometimes. State of mind, another seed planted. Pierre appeared at my elbow. Madam Thompson, you have a phone call. Quite urgent, I'm afraid. I'd given him the cue during the fish course, a subtle gesture we'd arranged. Time for my exit. Oh dear, I said, rising. I should take this. Please continue enjoying dinner. I walked steadily to the door, hearing Madison stage whisper, probably her doctor. She's been having these episodes. In the lobby, Pierre handed me my coat and my special envelope from the cloakroom. The other item you requested is in place, madame. And may I say, your husband would be proud. I squeezed his hand, then walked to my car. But I didn't leave. Not yet. I had a show to watch. Inside the dining room, the party continued for another hour. Desserts, more wine, coffee that probably cost $30 a cup. Madison live-streamed it all, boasting about the family celebration and how blessed she was. Then came the moment I'd been waiting for. Pierre presented the check. I watched through the window as Madison's face cycled through confusion, annoyance, then pure rage. She was on her feet, waving the leather folder, shrieking loud enough that other diners turned to stare. When the bill came, your mom took off. Are we supposed to pay now? Jason's face had gone pale, then red. He was fumbling for his wallet while Madison continued her tirade, her careful composure cracking like cheap plaster. I started my car and drove away, leaving them to sort out their $8,000 problem. But not before placing a sealed envelope on my front porch, visible from the street. Inside, copies of Madison's bigamy evidence, her fraud history, her secret bank account records, and a lovely note. Happy birthday, Madison. Consider this my gift, the gift of truth. Enjoy your celebration. P.S. The restaurant has your credit card on file from the reservation. How convenient. My phone exploded with calls before I even reached the highway. 47 from Jason, 23 from Madison, and one text from Dorothy. Saw Madison's live stream cut off mid-scream. You raised that hell, honey. I turned off my phone and kept driving. I had a 4 a.m. appointment to keep and preparations to make. The birthday surprise was just the appetizer. The main course was yet to come. As I pulled into Dorothy's driveway where I'd be spending the night, I thought about Frank's letter one more time. Permission to raise hell, he'd written. Oh, darling, I whispered to the night sky. You haven't seen anything yet. Dorothy's guest room had become my command center. Security monitors from my newly installed system glowed in the darkness, showing every angle of my house. The cameras had been Maggie's suggestion installed by her nephew, who specialized in sensitive situations. Everything uploaded to the cloud instantly backed up in triplicate. I sat in the plush armchair Dorothy had insisted on adding, for comfort during the show, wrapped in one of her hand-quilted throws, watching my former life through digital windows. It was 9:47 p.m. The restaurant debacle had ended 2 hours ago, and I knew they'd come. Predators always return to familiar hunting grounds. The first act started at 10:15. Jason's BMW pulled into my driveway, crooked like he'd been drinking. Madison exploded out of the passenger side before he'd fully stopped her birthday dress, now wrinkled her carefully styled hair, resembling a bird's nest after a windstorm. I cannot believe your mother. Her voice carried clearly through the night. Several neighbors' lights flickered on. Mrs. Patterson's silhouette appeared in her window, probably with her binoculars. Good. Witnesses were always helpful. Jason stumbled out, and even from Dorothy's house 3 blocks away, I could see his shoulders sagging. My boy, who once stood tall at his Eagle Scout ceremony, now looked like a marionette with cut strings. Maybe she had an emergency, he offered weakly. Madison whirled on him. Emergency, emergency. Your senile mother orchestrated this. She humiliated me in front of everyone. Do you know what this cost? $8,437, Jason mumbled. Plus tip. Plus tip, Madison shrieked. I had to put it on 3 different cards. The Amex is maxed. The Visa got declined. I had to use the emergency MasterCard. I zoomed in with the camera controls Maggie's nephew had taught me. Madison was pacing the driveway like a caged leopard, her phone glued to her ear. Mother, yes, it's me. No, the dinner was a disaster. His mother, that's what happened. The witch left us with the bill. I know. Yes, we're at her house now, but it's dark. What do you mean, what's our plan? She listened, then her face contorted further. Committed? We can't get her committed if we can't find her. She planned this, Mother. She's not as stupid as she looks. What do you mean, be careful? She's a pathetic old widow who wears 10-year-old clothes. The irony of calling me pathetic while having a breakdown in my driveway wasn't lost on me. I sipped the chamomile tea Dorothy had made its warmth, a comfort against the October chill seeping through the window. Jason tried the doorbell for the 4th time. Mom, please, we need to talk. Nothing, of course. I disconnected the doorbell before leaving. Madison ended her call and stomped to the front door. Your key. I don't have one anymore. Remember, you said it was weird for me to have a key to my mom's house after we got married. The look Madison gave him could have curdled milk. You gave up your key to your mother's house, where she keeps all the financial documents. You said it was a boundary issue. I say a lot of things, Jason. You're supposed to know which ones to actually listen to. They circled the house, checking windows, rattling doors. I'd locked everything tight and drawn all curtains. From the outside, it looked exactly like what it was, an empty house whose occupant had left in a hurry. At 11:30, they gave up and left, but not before Madison kicked my garden gnome. Frank had bought that gnome at a flea market, claiming it looked like his Uncle Pete. I made a note to add property damage to the list. Dorothy appeared in the doorway with fresh popcorn. Better than cable, she said, settling into the other chair. When's Act 2? Soon, I predicted. Madison won't let this go. She's lost face with her influencer crowd, and that's her real currency. Sure enough, at 2:18 a.m. they returned. This time, Madison had changed into what she probably thought was burglar chic black leggings, black hoodie face partially covered by a scarf. She looked like a yoga instructor planning a heist. But they weren't alone. A pickup truck followed them, and out climbed a man built like a refrigerator with arms. Madison's brother, Brady, whom I'd met exactly once at their wedding. He'd spent the reception trying to sell the other guests cryptocurrency. This is insane, Jason said, but his protest was weak tea at best. Shut up, Madison snapped. Brady knows what he's doing. Right, Brady. Brady grunted, pulling a toolbox from his truck. You sure the old lady's gone? She's probably at some motel crying into her pillow, Madison said. This is our chance. We need those financial documents, power of attorney forms, anything we can use. Mad this is breaking and entering. Jason tried again. This is my mother's house. Which should be your house, Madison rounded on him. Our house. Do you know how much this place is worth? $400,000 minimum, and she's just sitting on it alone, refusing to downsize like a reasonable person. Dorothy grabbed my arm as Brady approached the back door with what looked like lockpicks. You're recording all this? Every second, I confirmed, in high definition. The back door was solid oak installed by Frank himself, but the lock was newer electronic with a silent alarm I'd had installed last week. The moment Brady started working on it, my phone buzzed with a security alert. I let it record his attempts for a solid 10 minutes before activating the next phase. The porch lights blazed on. All of them. Front, back, sides, even the decorative ones Frank had installed for our anniversary. The property lit up like a football stadium. Brady jumped back, tools clattering. Madison screamed. Jason just stood there, frozen like a deer in headlights, which essentially he was. Motion sensors, Brady muttered. Fancy ones too. This ain't some basic setup. Then get past it, Madison hissed. You said you could handle this. That was before I knew your mother-in-law had a security system like Fort Knox. They retreated to the driveway, huddling like conspirators. which of course they were. I zoomed in, catching Madison's face clearly as she gestured wildly. "There has to be another way in," she insisted. "Madison, please," Jason said. "This has gone too far. We can talk to her tomorrow." With what leverage she publicly humiliated me. The video of me screaming about the bill has 50,000 views. Do you understand what this means for my brand? Ah, yes, the brand. Madison's carefully curated image of wealth and success built on my son's credit cards and my charity. Brady studied the house with professional interest. Basement window might work. If she hasn't secured those too. Dorothy made a disgusted sound. "That boy's done this before." I nodded, making another note. Maggie would want to know about Brady's burglary skills. They circled to the basement windows, Brady leading with Jason reluctantly following, and Madison bringing up the rear, still complaining about her ruined birthday. The basement windows were barred, had been, since a break-in down the street 5 years ago, but Brady didn't know about the extra surprise I'd arranged. The moment he touched the first bar, the sprinkler system activated. Not the gentle sprinklers that kept my lawn green, but the commercial-grade ones I'd had installed last week, for fire safety. They erupted like geysers, catching all 3 conspirators in a deluge of cold October water. Madison's scream probably woke people 3 counties over. She stood there, designer outfits, soaked makeup running in rivers down her face, looking like a drowned raccoon with anger management issues. "I'm calling the police," she shrieked. "This is assault." "With water," Dorothy chuckled. "Good luck with that." They retreated again, leaving puddles across my driveway. Jason tried to wrap his jacket around Madison, who shoved him away. "This is your fault," she raged. "Your mother is crazy. She's lost it. This proves we need to have her committed." "Mad," Jason said quietly. "She's not crazy. She's just done." Done. She doesn't get to be done. She owes us, after everything we've done for her." "What have we done for her?" Jason asked, and for a moment I saw a flicker of my son beneath the henpecked husband. We include her. We let her pay for things. We're giving her purpose in her pathetic widow life. Even Brady looked uncomfortable at that. He shifted his weight tools, clinking. "Look, sis, maybe we should call it a night." "No." Madison's voice had taken on an edge of hysteria. "We're not leaving empty-handed. There has to be cash in there. Jewelry. Something." At 3:47 a.m. they left again, but I knew they'd be back. Madison's fury had evolved into something darker, more desperate. She'd tasted humiliation, and like any wounded predator, she'd return for revenge. Dorothy and I maintained our vigil until 4:15 when the BMW returned for the 3rd time. This time, Jason parked on the street, partially hidden behind the Hendersons' van. "She's getting smarter," Dorothy observed. "Not smart enough," I replied. They approached on foot, Madison leading this time. She'd changed again now, wearing all black like a discount ninja. Brady carried a different toolbox, heavier looking. Jason lagged behind, his reluctance visible even from a distance. This time they went straight for the back door. No checking for lights, no hesitation. Madison stood watch while Brady worked, and I could see her lips moving constantly. Praying, cursing. Probably both. "Almost got it," Brady announced after several minutes. That's when I played my final card, the one I'd been saving. "Police freeze hands where we can see them." The voice boomed from speakers hidden in my garden, part of the security system's deterrent package. But they didn't know it was recorded. The effect was immediate and dramatic. Brady dropped his tools and raised his hands. Jason actually fell to his knees, hands up like he was surrendering to a SWAT team. But Madison ran. In heels and soaking wet designer clothes, she bolted across my backyard, crashed through Dorothy's prized rose bushes, and kept going. Brady and Jason exchanged looks of disbelief before Jason called out, "Madison, it's just a recording!" Too late. She was gone, leaving only a trail of scattered rose petals and what looked like a very expensive shoe stuck in the garden mulch. Brady lowered his hand, slowly studying the house with newfound respect. "Your mom's something else," he told Jason. "Yeah," Jason said, still on his knees. She is. They gathered Brady's tools and Madison's abandoned shoe, then trudged back to their vehicles. Jason tried calling Madison 12 times before she finally answered. "Where are you?" he asked. Even from my distance, I could hear her shrieking response about police and running and ruined Louboutins. As they finally drove away, Dorothy and I sat in comfortable silence. The sun would rise soon, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold. A new day, a day of reckoning. "So," Dorothy finally said, "what's next?" I smiled, thinking of the envelope on my porch, now soaked but still sealed, of the security footage auto-uploaded to the cloud, of the police report I'd file in a few hours, complete with video evidence. "Now," I said, standing and stretching muscles stiff from hours of vigilance. "Now they come to me, and they'll find I've prepared quite the welcome." Dorothy grinned. "Frank would be so proud." "He would," I agreed, gathering my things. "But we're not done yet, not even close." I had 4 hours until the inevitable confrontation. Just enough time to go home, change into my Sunday best, and prepare for the grand finale. The birthday party was over, but the real celebration was about to begin. Sunday morning arrived with the kind of crisp October air that usually made me think of apple cider and corn mazes. Instead, I stood in my kitchen at 7:30 a.m., calmly making French toast while reviewing security footage on my tablet. The attempted break-in played on loop Brady with his lockpicks, Madison in her soaking designer disaster, Jason on his knees in my backyard like a penitent sinner. The doorbell rang at 8:15. Early, but not unexpected. I'd seen them pull up 5 minutes ago, sitting in the car and apparently arguing about who had to ring the bell. Jason lost. I opened the door wearing my church dress pearls and a pleasant smile. "Jason. What a surprise. And Madison, dear, you look tired." She looked like she'd been dragged through a hedge backward, then forward again for good measure. Her hair hung limp, her makeup was gone, and she wore what appeared to be Jason's college sweatshirt over wrinkled leggings. The mighty influencer had fallen indeed. "Mom." Jason started, then stopped. Started again. "Mom, we need to talk." "Of course, sweetheart, come in. I just made French toast. Your favorite with the cinnamon." They followed me to the kitchen like scolded children. Madison sat stiffly at the table where she'd once live-streamed my pathetic cooking. Jason hovered between sitting and standing until I pointed to his usual chair. "Coffee," I offered pleasantly. "Orange juice water from the sprinkler system." Madison's head snapped up. You know, dear, half the neighborhood knows. Mrs. Patterson called me at Dorothy's to report suspicious persons in my yard. Apparently, she got some lovely photos for the Neighborhood Watch newsletter. I served French toast as if we were having a normal Sunday breakfast. Jason picked up his fork automatically, then set it down when Madison glared at him. "We need to discuss last night," Madison said, trying to reclaim some authority. "Which part?" I asked innocently. "The birthday dinner where you planned to humiliate me into submission. The first break-in attempt. The second. The third. I have to admit, I lost count after Brady brought his professional tools." Jason's fork clattered to his plate. "You were here the whole time." "Oh, no, dear. I was at Dorothy's having a lovely evening. Did you know she makes the most amazing popcorn kettle corn with just a hint of cayenne?" But then how... Madison trailed off, her eyes widening as she noticed the small security camera tucked discreetly in the corner. "Technology is wonderful, isn't it?" I continued. "Everything uploads to the cloud instantly. Multiple backups. My attorney has access, as does the security company. And the police, of course, should I choose to file a report." The color drained from Madison's face, making her look like a Victorian ghost who'd discovered electricity. "Now then," I said, settling into my chair with my own coffee, "let's discuss what really happened last night, starting with this." I placed a folder on the table. Madison reached for it, but I slid it to Jason instead. "Go ahead, sweetheart, read it." His hands shook as he opened it. I watched his face change as he absorbed the contents: Madison's bigamy, her fraud history, the secret bank account, the screenshots of Operation Inheritance. This can't be real," he whispered. "I'm afraid it is. Your wife, who is technically still someone else's wife, has been planning to have me declared incompetent and take control of my assets. She's done it before. 2 other families, both with sons about your age, both with widowed mothers." Madison stood abruptly. "This is slander, I'll sue you." "With what money?" I asked calmly. "The $80,000 in debt, the maxed credit cards, or perhaps the $23,000 you've stolen from Jason's account?" She sat back down hard. "Madison," Jason said, his voice hollow, "is this true?" "She's twisting everything," Madison protested. "Those other situations were different. Those women were actually senile, and Robert and I have an understanding." "An understanding?" Jason laughed, but it was bitter. "You're still married to someone else." "We're separated. The divorce is just paperwork." "Paperwork that would have revealed your real name," I added helpfully, "and your history, and the warrant in Arizona." "That warrant was dismissed after you paid restitution with money from victim number 2's son." The kitchen fell silent except for the grandfather clock ticking in the hallway. Frank had bought that clock at an estate sale, insisting every home needed a heartbeat. Now it counted the seconds of Madison's unraveling. "I want a lawyer," she finally said. "Excellent idea," I agreed. "You'll need one, especially after last night's performance. Breaking and entering, attempted burglary, conspiracy to commit elder fraud. Oh, and destruction of property. You kicked my gnome." "That's not, you can't prove." I turned the tablet toward them, starting the security footage. There was Madison in all her black-clad glory directing Brady's break-in attempt. The audio was crystal clear, every word about stealing documents and finding cash perfectly recorded. Jason put his head in his hands. "Oh God, oh my God." "The police will be here at 9. I continued conversationally. "I called them this morning. Lovely Officer Martinez, you remember her, Jason. She gave that safety talk at your Boy Scout troop. She's very interested in the footage." Madison's transformation was swift. The defiance melted into desperation. "Carla, please, we can work this out. We're family." "Are we?" I asked. "Because family doesn't plot to steal from each other. Family doesn't humiliate each other on social media. Family doesn't try to have each other declared incompetent." That was just, I was angry I didn't mean it. "Which time when you called me pathetic, when you made fun of my clothes to your followers, when you told your mother I was a walking wallet with dementia?" Each word hit like a physical blow. Madison flinched, her carefully constructed facade crumbling like week old bread. "Jason." She turned to my son, grabbing his arm. Tell her we weren't really gonna do anything." But Jason was staring at the bank statements showing her secret account. "You've been stealing from me while making me beg my mother for money. I was saving for our future. Our future or your exit strategy." The doorbell rang. 9 o'clock exactly. Officer Martinez was nothing if not punctual. "Wait," Madison jumped up. "Please, just wait. I'll do anything. I'll pay back everything. I'll leave town. Just please don't do this." I stood slowly smoothing my church dress. "Madison, you had chance after chance to be a decent person, to be kind, to be grateful, to be honest. You chose cruelty and greed every single time." "I'm sorry, I'm so sorry." "No," I said quietly. "You're sorry you got caught." I walked to the door, pausing to look back at my son. "Jason, you can stay or go. But if you stay, it's as my son, not as her husband or accomplice. Choose wisely." The moment of truth. Jason looked at Madison, then at me. For a heartbeat, I saw him wavering, the weakness Frank had warned about. Then his spine straightened. "I'm staying," he said, "as your son, if you'll have me." Madison's wail could have shattered glass. "Jason, you can't. We're a team. It's us against her." "No," he said quietly. "It was you against everyone. I just couldn't see it." I opened the door to Officer Martinez and her partner, a young officer named Davidson. "Good morning, officers. Thank you for coming. I have security footage of an attempted break-in and quite a bit more to share." As they entered, Madison made one last desperate play. She's not well. Can't you see she's paranoid? She has cameras everywhere. She's lost touch with reality. Officer Martinez looked at the neat kitchen, the calm, elderly woman in church clothes, the security tablet showing clear footage, then at the disheveled woman shrieking about paranoia. "Ma'am," she said to Madison, "I'm going to need you to calm down and come with us." But she's the crazy one. I pulled out my phone and showed Officer Martinez something I'd saved for just this moment. Madison's live stream from the restaurant, complete with her meltdown over the bill. "As you can see," I said pleasantly, "I left a family dinner early. They chose to break into my home in retaliation. Everything else is on the security footage." Davidson whistled low. "That's some setup, Mrs. Thompson." "My late husband believed in being prepared," I replied. "Coffee before you go, I made plenty." As they led Madison away, still protesting about her rights and her brand and the unfairness of it all, Jason remained at the kitchen table. My son, looking smaller and more lost than I'd seen him since Frank's funeral. "Mom," he said finally, "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." I sat beside him, not touching, not yet. "I know, sweetheart." "How long have you known about her? I mean, suspected for a while, known for certain about 3 weeks. Why didn't you tell me sooner? Would you have believed me?" He considered this, then shook his head. "No, I would have thought you were jealous or trying to break us up." "Exactly. You had to see it for yourself." "The money Dad left, that's real, very real. And it was always meant for both of us, Jason, but not for her, never for her." He nodded slowly. "What happens now? Now you get a good lawyer and file for annulment based on her bigamy. You get therapy to understand how this happened. You rebuild your life. And maybe if we're both willing to work at it, we rebuild our relationship." "I'd like that," he whispered. "I'd really like that." I reached out, then covering his hand with mine. So would I. The French toast had grown cold, but neither of us moved. Outside sirens faded into the distance, carrying Madison toward her reckoning. Inside, a mother and son sat at a kitchen table, beginning the long journey back to each other. The grandfather clock chimed the half-hour marking time the way it always had, the way it always would. Some things, the important things, endured. "Mom," Jason said eventually, "the gnome she kicked, we can get it fixed." I squeezed his hand. "We can fix a lot of things, sweetheart, one gnome at a time." The Evans County Police Station looked exactly like it had 20 years ago when Jason's Cub Scout troop took a field trip there. Same mint green walls, same fluorescent lights that made everyone look vaguely ill, same smell of burnt coffee and industrial disinfectant. What had changed was my reason for being here. I sat in the lobby beside Jason, who'd insisted on coming despite my suggestions that he might want to distance himself. "She's still legally my wife," he'd said with grim determination. "I need to see this through." Officer Martinez appeared after an hour, looking both amused and exasperated. "Mrs. Thompson, we need to discuss the evidence. Your daughter-in-law is vocal about her innocence." Vocal was diplomatic. We could hear Madison's shrieks from 2 hallways away, demanding lawyers' phone calls, and bizarrely her ring light for a statement video. "She's not my daughter-in-law," I corrected gently. "As we discovered, she's still legally married to someone else." Martinez's eyebrows climbed. "Right, about that. Mr. Richards in Nevada has been very helpful. He's sending documentation about their marriage and some interesting police reports from Henderson." We followed her to a small conference room where Detective Kumar waited with several evidence boxes. I recognized my security footage playing on a laptop, Brady's lockpicking attempt frozen on screen. "Mrs. Thompson," Kumar began, "this is one of the most thoroughly documented attempted burglaries I've seen. Your security system is impressive. My late husband believed in being prepared." Smart man. Now beyond the break-in, there's the matter of attempted elder fraud conspiracy, and what appears to be bigamy. I slid my folder across the table, Maggie's investigation laid out in neat tabs. "Everything's here, Detective. 3 states, 3 victims, same pattern. And yes, bigamy." Jason made a sound like a wounded animal. I didn't comfort him. Some lessons had to hurt to stick. Kumar whistled as he flipped through the documentation. This is extensive. Your investigator did excellent work. Maggie Chen. I believe you know her. Know her, she taught half our department about financial fraud. If Maggie says it's solid, it's solid. Martinez's radio crackled. We've got a situation in holding. The suspect is trying to live stream. How? Kumar asked incredulously. She had a second phone hidden in her undergarments. Even Jason looked appalled at that. She brought a backup phone to jail. Your wife appears to be quite committed to her online presence, Martinez said dryly. As if summoned by the mention of social media, the conference room door burst open. A harried-looking public defender entered, followed by Brady in handcuffs and an officer. My client wishes to make a statement, the defender announced, looking like he'd rather be anywhere else. Brady, still damp from his sprinkler adventure, avoided eye contact with everyone. I got nothing to do with Mad's schemes. I just came to help with a locked door. Thought it was Jason's house. At 4 a.m, Kumar asked, with lockpicks. I work nights, and those weren't lockpicks. They were automotive tools that you brought to break into a house, allegedly. The public defender winced. Brady, we discussed this. Look. Brady shifted uncomfortably. Madison called me, said she left something important in the house and couldn't get in. Said it was a family emergency. I didn't know about any of her other stuff. Other stuff. Kumar leaned forward. Brady glanced at his lawyer, who nodded reluctantly. The old lady thing. The inheritance plot. Mad's done it before. That's why we don't talk much anymore. You knew about the other victims? I asked quietly. He finally met my eyes. Lady in Florida was my neighbor's mom. Mad played the whole grieving daughter-in-law thing, got the old woman to sign over power of attorney. By the time anyone figured it out, Mad was gone and Mrs. Chen had lost half her savings. Chen, Jason started, but our investigator is named... Different Chen, I assured him. Common name. Brady continued, seemingly eager to distance himself now. I warned Madison to stop, but she said she'd found the perfect mark this time. Rich widow, lonely son, easy pickings. No offense, Jason. My son looked like he'd been punched, repeatedly, with a brick. I'll testify, Brady added quickly. Immunity deal right. I got texts, emails, whole conversations about her plans. His lawyer whispered urgently, but Brady waved him off. Nah, I'm done covering for her. Woman's got my mom thinking she's getting a successful daughter any day now. Meanwhile, Mad's planning to fleece another family. Kumar and Martinez exchanged glances. We'll need those communications, Kumar said. As Brady was led out to make his full statement, another commotion erupted in the hallway. Madison's voice shrill and desperate, demanding to speak to whoever's in charge. Kumar sighed. Would you like to observe the interview, Mrs. Thompson? Very much so. The observation room's one-way mirror showed Madison in full meltdown mode. Her makeup had smeared into something resembling a raccoon with food poisoning, and her designer athleisure was rumpled beyond recognition. She paced the small interrogation room like a caged animal with rabies. When Kumar entered, she launched into her defense immediately. This is a setup. That woman has been planning this. She's probably not even really Carla Thompson. Check her identity. We did, Kumar said mildly. 65 years of credit history, 30 years at the same address library, volunteer of the year 3 times running. Very solid identity. Then she's having a breakdown dementia. Something normal people don't set elaborate traps for their families. Normal families don't plot to steal from their mothers. Madison's laugh was brittle. Steal, we were trying to help her. Do you know how dangerous it is for elderly people to live alone? We were protecting her assets. By attempting to have her declared incompetent. For her own good. Kumar laid out the evidence methodically. Screenshots of Operation Inheritance. Bank records showing Madison's secret account. The bigamy documentation. Witness statements from the restaurant. Security footage of the break-in attempts. With each piece, Madison's protests grew weaker, her influencer persona. cracking like cheap foundation. "You don't understand," she finally said, slumping in her chair. "I grew up with nothing. Nothing. Goodwill clothes and food stamps and my mom working 3 jobs. I swore I'd never live like that again." "So you married men with wealthy mothers and robbed them." "I married men who didn't appreciate what they had." Madison's spark returned. Jason was letting his mother live in that big house alone, all that money just sitting there while we struggled. In the observation room, Jason made a choking sound. "We weren't struggling. I make $90,000 a year." "I gave them purpose," Madison continued. "Those old women were just waiting to die. At least with me, they were part of something. Part of being defrauded, part of a family, part of life. Instead of moldering away with their memories and their dusty photos and their endless stories about dead husbands, I thought of Frank's letter, his permission to raise hell. He'd known somehow that this moment would come, that someone would see my grief as weakness, my age, as vulnerability. The Richards marriage," Kumar said, switching tactics. "Why didn't you divorce?" Madison shrugged. "Cheaper to stay married. Robert didn't care as long as I didn't come after his trailer. And the warrant in Arizona. Misunderstanding. The family got upset over nothing. Nothing being $40,000. They could afford it." The interview continued for another hour. Madison admitted nothing directly but revealed everything through her justifications. Every elderly woman was lonely anyway. Every family had plenty to share. Every theft was practically a favor. When Kumar finally showed her the full extent of Brady's cooperation, including texts where she explicitly outlined her plans, Madison's mask finally shattered completely. "That's fake deep fakes, AI, someone setting me up." "Your brother's setting you up." "He's not my brother. He's my husband's cousin, and he's always been jealous of my success." Kumar looked at his notes. "You just said he's your brother." "Stepbrother, half-brother. Whatever the point is, he's lying." "About which part?" "All of it. I'm a successful influencer. I have 16,000 followers. I don't need to steal from anyone." "Then why did you—" The question hung in the air like morning fog. Madison stared at Kumar, then at the mirror, possibly seeing her reflection for the first time in years. "I want my lawyer," she said finally. "My real lawyer, not the public pretender. The one you plan to pay with Mrs. Thompson's money." Madison didn't answer. She sat back, closed her eyes, and for once said nothing. In the observation room, Martinez turned to us. "We have enough to hold her on multiple charges. The DA will probably offer a deal if she provides information about the other cases." "Will she take it?" Jason asked. "Depends on how much she values her image versus her freedom." As we prepared to leave, Madison's public defender rushed past looking even more frazzled. "She's demanding I contact someone named Tiffany about posting bail using cryptocurrency." Kumar and Martinez shared a look of profound exhaustion. Outside the station, Jason and I stood in the autumn sunshine, both of us blinking like we'd emerged from a cave. The world looked different somehow, sharper, more real. "Mom," Jason said eventually, "how do I come back from this?" "One step at a time," I told him. "First you get that annulment, then therapy, then we work on us." And Madison made her choices. Now she faces the consequences. "The money Dad left will be there when you're ready, when you've learned to spot the Madisons of the world before they spot you." He nodded, looking older but somehow clearer, like fog lifting from glass. My phone buzzed, Dorothy checking in, then Maggie confirming she'd sent all documentation to the DA. Then Sam Peters, my attorney, already preparing civil suits to recover what Madison had taken. The machine of justice slow but thorough, grinding into motion. "Come on," I told Jason. "Let's go home. I'll make pot roast." "The one Dad liked." "The very one." As we drove away, I caught a glimpse of Madison being transferred to county holding, still gesturing wildly, still protesting her innocence, still unable to see that the performance was over, the audience gone, the lights dimmed on her one-woman show. Frank would have called it poetic justice. I just called it justice, period. But we weren't done yet. Madison's unraveling was only the beginning. The real work of rebuilding would take months, maybe years. Trust once shattered had to be pieced together, fragment by fragment like my kicked garden gnome. Fixable with patience and the right glue, but never quite the same. And maybe that was okay. Maybe the cracks were where the light got in. The visiting room at Evans County Jail felt like purgatory decorated by someone who'd only heard descriptions of comfort secondhand. Plastic chairs in a shade of orange that existed nowhere in nature. Tables bolted to the floor and a vending machine that looked like it had survived several apocalypses. Jason sat beside me, his leg bouncing with nervous energy. It had been a week since Madison's arrest, a week of revelations arriving like unwanted Christmas presents. Each day brought new information from Maggie, the forensic accountant, or various law enforcement agencies suddenly interested in Madison's interstate activities. "You don't have to do this," I told him for the third time. "Yes, I do," he replied, voice steadier than his hands. "I need to understand how I let this happen." Through the reinforced glass door, we watched Madison being led in. Orange was definitely not her color. Without her elaborate makeup routine and Instagram filters, she looked younger, harder, and somehow more real than she'd ever appeared before. She sat across from us, movements sharp and angry. The phone between us might as well have been a chasm. "Come to gloat," she said without preamble. "Come to get answers," Jason replied, starting with who you really are. Madison laughed, a sound like glass breaking. "Now you want to know after 3 years of marriage. 3 years of what exactly was any of it real?" Something flickered across her face. Not remorse, exactly, but maybe its distant cousin. "The first 6 months were real. You were sweet attentive. Your mom sent those care packages every week. And then I realized you were never going to be more than what you were. A middle manager with a superhero complex and mommy issues. But your mother," she turned to me, "your mother had potential." "Potential to be robbed," I said mildly. "Potential to share all that money sitting there while you live like a church mouse. Do you know what I could have done with those resources? The influence I could have built." "You mean the crimes you could have committed?" Madison's mask slipped back into place. "Everything I did was for us, Jason. For our future." "Our future or your exit strategy?" Jason leaned forward. "Brady told us about Florida, about Arizona, about Robert. Brady's an idiot who can't keep his mouth shut." "Maybe, but he kept receipts. Text messages where you called me practice husband number 2. Ring any bells?" I watched Madison process this, calculating her response like she was composing a caption, always performing even here. That was taken out of context. "What context makes that acceptable?" Jason's voice cracked. "What context makes any of this okay? You wouldn't understand. You've never been hungry, never had utilities shut off, never watched your mother cry over bills while your father drank away the rent money. So you decided to make other mothers cry instead." Madison's hands clenched on the table. "Those women were fine. Insurance covered most of it, and they learned valuable lessons about security." The casual cruelty took my breath away. Even after everything, her complete lack of empathy was stunning. "The woman in Florida," I said quietly. "Mrs. Chen. She had to move in with her daughter, lost her independence, her confidence, her faith in people. That's what insurance doesn't cover." "Not my problem." "It is now," Jason said. "The DA is offering you a deal. Full confession restitution and testimony about your other marriages in exchange for 3 to 5 instead of 15 to 20. Madison's composure cracked. 15 to 20 for what? Elder abuse, fraud, theft by deception, bigamy, conspiracy. And that's just in this state. Florida and Arizona want their turns. This is insane. I'm not some criminal mastermind, I'm an influencer. Itama nada mindis? With 16,000 bought followers, Jason added. "Yeah, we found those receipts too." The visiting room suddenly felt smaller, the air thicker. Madison looked between us, perhaps finally understanding, that her audience had seen behind the curtain. "Fine," she spat. "You want the truth? I targeted you, Jason. Saw your LinkedIn, saw your widowed mother, did the math. You were supposed to be easy. Lonely mama's boy, desperate for attention. And you were God, you were so easy. One push-up bra and some daddy issues dialogue, and you were mine." Each word was a calculated wound designed to hurt, but Jason didn't flinch. "I know," he said simply. "I've been in therapy all week. Dr. Brennan says I confused intensity with intimacy control with care. You love-bombed me, isolated me, gaslit me. Classic manipulation tactics." Madison blinked, thrown by his clinical assessment. "Therapy. You're in therapy. Twice a week. Mom, too. Family sessions start next month." "How progressive." "How necessary," I corrected. "Jason's not the first person you've done this to. He won't be the last if you don't get help." "I don't need help. I need a better lawyer." The door opened and Detective Kumar entered with another man in an expensive suit. Not a public defender, this one. "Mrs. Richards," the suit said, and Madison flinched at the name. "I'm David Hartley from Hartley and Associates. Your mother retained me." "About time," Madison muttered. Hartley sat pulling out documents with practiced efficiency. "I've reviewed your case. The evidence is overwhelming. My recommendation is to take the deal." "But you're supposed to defend me." "I am defending you from a life sentence. The federal charges alone could put you away for decades." "Federal charges," Jason and I said in unison. Kumar smiled grimly. "Crossing state lines to commit fraud, interstate commerce violations, wire fraud using social media platforms. The FBI is very interested in Mrs. Richards' entrepreneurial activities." Madison went pale beneath the harsh fluorescent lights. "The FBI? You didn't think you could run the same scam in 3 states without attracting federal attention, did you?" Hartley asked. "Take the deal, Madison. It's more generous than you deserve." What followed was the most honest I'd ever seen Madison. Faced with federal prosecution abandoned by her fellow influencers and confronted with competent legal counsel who wouldn't enable her fantasies, she crumbled. "It wasn't supposed to go this far," she whispered. "The first time in Florida, I really did care about Robert's mother, but she was so trusting, so easy to convince. When she gave me access to her accounts, I just took a little for emergencies." $60,000 of emergencies, Kumar asked. It added up. Clothes for job interviews, a car to get to work, startup costs for my first blog, investments in my future. "Theft," I said firmly. "Call it what it was." Madison's eyes flashed. "You don't understand poverty. You don't understand having nothing and seeing people with everything who don't even appreciate it." "I understand plenty." I replied, thinking of Frank and me eating ramen for months to save for Jason's college fund. I understand the difference between need and want, between hardship and entitlement. "Mom," Jason said quietly, "tell her about the early years." I looked at my son, surprised. "You remember the apartment with the leaky roof, Dad working 3 jobs, you sewing our clothes? I remember Mom. We were poor, too. You just never let it define us." Madison stared at me with new eyes. "You were poor?" "Dirt poor. Frank and I started with nothing but determination and each other. We built our life savings dollar by dollar, sacrifice by sacrifice. So don't tell me I don't understand. I understand choosing between heat and groceries. I just never chose to steal from someone else's grandmother." The room fell silent except for the buzz of fluorescent lights and distant jail sounds. Madison looked smaller somehow, her elaborate armor stripped away. "The deal," Hartley said eventually. "You need to decide." Madison turned to Jason one last time. "Did you ever love me even a little?" Jason considered the question with the gravity it deserved. "I loved who I thought you were, but that person never existed, did she?" "No," Madison admitted. "She didn't." "Then I guess we both learned something." Madison signed the papers with shaking hands. 3 to 5 years restitution to all victims and full cooperation with ongoing investigations. It was more than generous considering. As we prepared to leave, Madison called out, "Carla." I turned back. "The security system, the investigation, the trap at the restaurant. How long were you planning it?" "I wasn't planning anything," I told her honestly. "I was just protecting myself. You created your own trap, Madison. I just refused to be another victim." Outside, Jason and I sat in my car processing what we'd witnessed. The autumn air was crisp, carrying hints of wood smoke and possibility. "She's gone," Jason said wonderingly. "Really gone. For now, 3 years minimum before parole hearings. What do I do now? Now you file for annulment. Continue therapy. Rebuild your life. Learn to trust yourself again." And us, you and me. I started the car Frank's old jazz station, filling the silence. We take it slow. Sunday dinners, phone calls, maybe help me fix that gnome. Jason smiled, the first real smile I'd seen in years. I'd like that. As we drove home, my phone buzzed with messages. Dorothy inviting us for coffee. The Literacy Center confirming my volunteer schedule. Sam Peters updating me on civil proceedings. Life moving forward. "Mom," Jason said as we pulled into the driveway, "the money Dad left. What are you going to do with it?" First, recover what Madison stole from her victims. Set up a fund for elder fraud prevention. Maybe take that Mediterranean cruise Frank and I always planned. And save the rest for grandchildren who'll be raised to know better. Grandchildren, I just got unmarried. No rush. But someday when you meet someone real, someone kind, someone who sees you for more than your mother's bank account, well, I'll be ready. We sat in the driveway of the house Frank built. The house Madison tried to steal, the house that would shelter whatever family came next. Not perfect, perhaps, but honest, real, ours. "Come on," I said finally. "Let's make dinner, and Jason bring the glue. We've got a gnome to fix." The work of rebuilding had begun. 6 months later, I stood in my new beachfront condo watching the sunrise paint the California coast in shades of gold and coral. The French doors were open, letting in the sound of waves and the salt-sweet smell of morning by the ocean. It was smaller than the old house, but filled with light, exactly what Frank would have chosen for our retirement. "Carla, the quiche is going to burn if you keep daydreaming." Dorothy called from the kitchen where she was helping me prepare lunch for what had become our monthly gathering. I turned from the view, still not quite believing this was my life now. The condo in Carlsbad, the Victims Advocacy Foundation, the book club that had evolved into a support group for those who'd survived family fraud. From ashes phoenixes, from pain purpose. The doorbell rang, playing the opening notes of Beyond the Sea. Frank would have loved that detail. "I'll get it," Jason called out, emerging from the guest room where he'd been setting up extra chairs. He looked healthier these days, the stress lines softening the defensive hunch replaced by his father's straight shoulders. Madison had been sentenced to 4 years with possibility of parole in 3, taking the deal after her mother stopped paying for the expensive lawyer. She was serving time at a minimum security facility in Nevada, where she'd reportedly started a financial literacy program for fellow inmates. Even Kumar had been impressed by the irony. Mom. Emma, my daughter, swept in from Portland where she worked as a pediatric nurse. "The place looks amazing, and is that Jason actually cooking?" "I'm arranging fruit," Jason protested, hugging his sister. "There's a difference." The siblings had reconnected during the trial aftermath, Emma providing the tough love Jason needed while I focused on rebuilding trust. She'd been suspicious of Madison from the start, but had kept quiet to avoid family drama. "Never again," she'd promised. "Next time I see a red flag, I'm saying something." More guests arrived in quick succession. There was Patricia Chen from Florida, no relation to Maggie Madison's first victim, now a fierce advocate for elder rights. Behind her came Robert Richards, Madison's actual husband, who'd driven from Las Vegas with his new fiancée, a kindergarten teacher who found the whole situation fascinatingly awful. Carla Robert embraced me warmly. "You look radiant. Beach life agrees with you." "Happiness agrees with me," I corrected, meaning it. The dining table extended to seat 12, and every chair filled quickly. We'd started as victims but became something more: survivors, advocates, friends. Even Brady had joined us occasionally via video call from his halfway house, where he was serving 18 months and learning legitimate locksmith skills. "Before we eat," Patricia said, raising her orange juice, "several of us were in recovery from various things. I want to share some news. The Florida State Legislature passed the Chen-Thompson Act yesterday." The table erupted in cheers. The act named for Patricia and me required banks to flag suspicious account changes for customers over 60 and mandated verification protocols for power of attorney transfers. "Frank would be so proud," Dorothy said, squeezing my hand. "He'd wonder why it took so long," I replied, picturing his pragmatic smile. Jason stood next, looking nervous. "I have something too. Sarah and I—" He paused, and his girlfriend, a fellow software engineer who'd been friend before anything more, took his hand. "We're engaged. For real this time. Small wedding family, only no Instagram." Emma shrieked and hugged them both. I felt tears threaten but held them back. Happy tears could wait for private moments. "Congratulations," Robert said. "Take it from someone who learned the hard way marriage licenses are worth verifying." The laughter that followed was healing, the kind that comes from shared understanding of hard lessons learned. As we ate, Dorothy's quiche and my experimental seafood salad conversation flowed like the tide outside. Patricia's granddaughter was starting college. Robert's wedding would be in the spring. The foundation had helped recover $2 million for victims across 4 states. Small victories building into something bigger. "Carla," Patricia said during dessert, "have you given more thought to the book offer?" A publisher had approached me about writing our story, Inheritance, Scams, and Second Chances, A Survivor's Guide. The working title needed work, but the message resonated. "I'm considering it," I admitted, "though I'm not sure I'm a writer." "You're a storyteller," Emma said firmly. "Remember all those bedtime stories. Just tell the truth the same way." After lunch, as the group mingled on my small terrace, Jason approached me. He was holding a wrapped box, his expression serious. "Early birthday present," he said, though my birthday was months away. Inside was my garden gnome, perfectly repaired, but bearing visible gold seams where it had been broken. The Japanese art of kintsugi, making beautiful repairs that honored the breaking. "It's perfect," I whispered, tracing the golden scars. The repair shop said the gold makes it stronger than before, and more valuable. He paused. "Like us, maybe." "Like us," I agreed, hugging my son as the ocean breeze wrapped around us. Later, after everyone had gone home except Jason and Sarah staying the weekend, I sat on my terrace with Frank's journal. I'd been reading 1 entry per week, stretching out our final conversations. Today's entry was dated before his diagnosis. "Carla will read this someday and probably cry. Don't cry, sweetheart. I'm not leaving you alone. I'm leaving you free. Free to choose your life. Protect what we built and maybe raise a little hell along the way. The money's just numbers. You're the real inheritance our kids got. Even if they forget sometimes, they'll remember. Trust the process." "Still giving advice?" Jason asked, joining me with 2 cups of tea. "Always. Your father never met a situation he couldn't lecture about." "I miss him." "Me too, every day, but I see him in you more and more. Even after everything, especially after everything. He always said wisdom comes from surviving stupidity." Jason laughed. "Did he survive much stupidity?" "Oh, honey, remind me to tell you about the time he tried to day trade during the .com bubble." We sat in comfortable silence, watching the sun set over the Pacific. Inside, Sarah and Dorothy were comparing recipes and planning next month's gathering. Life flowing forward. "Mom," Jason said eventually, "what would you tell someone going through what we went through?" I considered the question, thinking of all the emails I now received through the foundation. Children discovering their parents were being scammed. Parents watching their kids being manipulated. Families fracturing under the weight of greed and deception. I'd tell them that love isn't measured in dollars given or blind trust offered. Real love includes boundaries. It includes saying no. It includes protecting yourself so you're around to help when genuine need arises. And sometimes, I touch the repaired gnome, its golden scars catching the last sunlight. Sometimes the breaking is just the beginning of becoming stronger. Should I write that down for your book? Maybe. Or maybe we just live it and let others find their own words. As darkness settled over the ocean, I thought about Madison in her cell, the victims rebuilding their lives, the laws changing because we'd spoken up. Frank's investment had grown into something neither of us could have imagined, not just money, but momentum, not just wealth, but wisdom. I love you, Mom, Jason said quietly. I love you too, sweetheart. Always have, always will, even when you forget to call. Especially then. Especially then. We clinked our teacups and watched the stars emerge, each one a small light in the vast darkness. Like hope, like truth, like families finding their way back to each other, one repaired break at a time. The gnome stood sentinel on the table between us, golden scars, and all proof that some things could be fixed. Different than before, marked by their journey, but whole again. Beautiful in their imperfection. Stronger for having been broken. Ready for whatever came next. Dear friends, if you've stayed with me through this journey, thank you. Sharing our story hasn't been easy, but every message from someone who recognized their own situation, who found the courage to set boundaries or seek help, has made it worthwhile. I'm curious, have you ever had to stand up to family members who saw you as a resource rather than a person? How did you find the strength to say enough? Please share your thoughts in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please consider hitting the like button and subscribing to our channel. These stories need to be told, and your support helps us reach others who might be facing similar situations. And please share this with anyone who might need to hear that they're not alone, that their feelings are valid, and that protecting yourself isn't selfish, it's necessary. From my beachfront window to wherever you're reading this, you are more than your bank account. You are worthy of respect at any age. And sometimes the greatest gift you can give someone is letting them face the consequences of their choices. Until next time, this is Carla Thompson signing off with love boundaries and maybe just a little bit of hell-raising spirit. Take care of yourselves and each other the right way.